Right, so making money from your hobbies or your passions can be a really good thing to do, and it's completely changed my life, but it does have its potential dangers and drawbacks. So in this episode of Money Club, the ongoing series where we discuss the strategies and tools that can help us along our shared journey towards financial independence, we're going to be talking about firstly, why you should consider trying to monetize your passions or your hobbies. Secondly, I'll share some tips on how to do it, having done it lots of times myself. And thirdly, we'll talk about the potential dangers and how you can help avoid those risks of making money from your hobbies. Oh, and thank you so much to Shopify for sponsoring this video, but more on them a little bit later. Part 1, why you should consider monetizing your hobbies. So firstly, there's the obvious thing of if you're making money from doing a thing that you love, then you never have to work a day in your life. And there is some truth to that. I am now like a YouTuber, and so I'm kind of making money from doing the thing that I love, and that is pretty sick. And it means that on days like this, I can take a step back and think, this is actually pretty cool that I get to do the thing that I love and get to make stupid amounts of money from it as well. And it's just generally a nice place to be. But to be honest, there's a lot of benefits of monetizing your passions and hobbies that aren't just if you somehow manage to make it a full-time thing. One of the main ones is that when you try and monetize a thing that you're passionate about or a thing that you do as a hobby, it actually encourages you to get better at the thing. So for example, for me, I monetized close-up magic. I was a fan of close-up magic. I was a magician for a few years on my webcam and in front of my mirror. But when I started performing for audiences and started trying to get paid gigs at a restaurant and at university balls and parties, that really helped me hone the craft of magic and in a way unlocked a different side of the passion that I just hadn't really appreciated, the side of performing for real people and trying to add value to real people's lives. It also, as a side effect, taught me a bunch of other skills like how to sell and how to market myself and getting over the fear of rejection when doing auditions for these balls and parties that I was performing at. And I think if I hadn't tried to monetize my hobby for close-up magic in that way, I would have just had a lot fewer of these skills, and those skills have really helped me throughout my life as well. The other benefit of monetizing your hobbies is that it just adds this extra layer of fun to it. So for example, let's say you're playing the guitar and you're enjoying playing the guitar and learning all these new songs and stuff. All of a sudden, if you start trying to make money from it by, for example, teaching the guitar or by, for example, busking in your local town center, it's really cool because it adds this extra element of challenge to the thing. Provided you don't make it your full-time job, we're going to talk more about that later on in the video about why that's potentially bad. Provided you don't make it your full-time job and you make pocket money from doing this thing, you can treat it as a bit of an adventure, as a bit of a challenge while doing the thing that you love, but you're not reliant on it for your actual survival. And of course, the final benefit of monetizing your hobbies is that money is ultimately an exchange of value, which we're going to talk about throughout this video. And so by virtue of making money from the thing that you're passionate about, you're actually adding value to people's lives because otherwise they wouldn't pay you for the thing that you're doing. And so it's really this like win-win-win scenario where you're doing the thing that you enjoy, you're making money from it, which then helps fund your life or the other things that you want to do, or even just becomes a little bit of a side hustle revenue stream. And you're also adding value to people, and that's just like generally good things all around. Oh, also one thing I forgot to mention, if the money starts to become interesting, like if you start making a few hundred or maybe even a few $1,000s from monetizing your passion, it means you could potentially go part-time on your day job, you could free up time, you could get more autonomy, and all of these things are great, but obviously that requires a certain level of income from the thing. Part 2, how to actually monetize your passion. So the thing to keep in mind here is that money is ultimately just an exchange of value, and therefore in order to make money, you have to be able to provide value to someone who is willing to pay you for the money. Money does not just grow on trees. You don't just randomly make money from doing a thing which is not valuable to society. Yeah, you have to actually add value first. And so if you want to make money from your passion, then by definition, that passion needs to be able to add value to someone else. So how do you figure this out? Well, there's a few different ways you can go about it. The first way you can go about it is you can think about who is the person or the community or the group of people that you ideally want to add value to. So let's say, for example, I have a passion for playing the guitar. If I think about who I can add value to, well, I could add value to an audience because they might pay me to hear me perform my guitar. I could add value to kids who want to learn the guitar. I could add value to adults who might want to learn the guitar. I could add value to people who run local community groups at my local church or youth camps or volunteering programs because they might want to hire me as a performer for one of their parties. I could potentially add value to restaurant owners who might want background music. It's like just taking this thing that I'm passionate about, and instead of asking the question, how do I make money from playing the guitar? It's like, no, who are the potential people I can add value to? Because ultimately, the only way you make money is by providing value. And usually providing value means solving a specific problem for someone else. Which brings us on to step 2 of the method, whatever we want to call it, which is figure out what problems these sorts of people have. Again, money is about solving problems. And so if you can list out all of the problems that someone might have, you can then try and figure out a way of like, does me playing the guitar or me doing close-up magic or teaching close-up magic or making a website or doing graphics or whatever my passion might be, is that something that I could potentially use to solve that specific problem? Like I had a friend at university university whose passion was attending museums. Just freaking loved attending the Natural History Museum and stuff. And when he was thinking about how to monetize this passion for attending museums, he was thinking, well, I suppose I could write about it. I could do tours of the museum. But what he stumbled on was like a stupidly profitable side hustle where he found basically rich families who wanted their kids to essentially be babysat, but to also have this culturally relevant experience. And so he offered this like bougie babysitting service to kids of rich families who wanted their kids to be taken to museums to learn about history. And so this guy combined his passion for going to museums with his general enjoyment of like hanging around kids and turned it into just, I think he was making a few £1,000s a month from just this thing alone. So it's just about thinking a little bit outside the box. You might think, hey, the fact I enjoy going to a museum is not something that can be monetized. But by just thinking a little bit outside and by thinking in terms of whose problems you can solve by using this skill or this hobby or your passion that you've got, it can really unlock interesting revenue opportunities if that's what you want to do. All right, so tip number 3 on how to make money from your passions is figure out how you can combine different passions or different things that you're interested in to create a killer combination which is more likely to attract an audience who's going to pay for it. So what do I mean by this? Let's say you are a guitar player and you just freaking love playing the guitar. It's kind of hard to make lots of money playing the guitar because loads of people want to do it. It's just a single skill. But if you can combine it with something else, for example, let's say you also have an interest in teaching and you like the idea of teaching kids. Now you've taken the idea of I want to teach kids and I'm good at it to I enjoy playing the guitar, and you've combined those to create a niche of I teach kids how to play the guitar. Again, this is not a particularly interesting example because there's loads of guitar teachers out there, but can you, for example, combine other things you're interested in? You know, I'm interested in teaching, I'm interested in the guitar, I'm interested in Ed Sheeran and Disney pop music. And so can you be like, hey, I have a program that teaches kids how to play guitar, but I don't teach them boring ass scales and classical acoustic guitar. Instead, I teach them how to play songs that they'll know. And then parents are like, oh my God, you can teach my kid how to play Let It Go from Frozen. And you can be like, yeah, I can play them on guitar. And it's just about layering these different combinations to figure out how can it provide value in a unique and potentially interesting way. All right, so tip number 4 is to figure out what are the different vehicles for your value delivery. So again, it comes down to this general principle, making money is about providing value. And generally, the 2 main ways of providing value are by creating goods or by selling services. So when it comes to goods, you can ask yourself, what can I make that people need or want, which will therefore add value to their life? And when it comes to services, you can ask yourself, what can I do that other people want or need or don't want to do that can therefore add value to their life? And it's a pretty simple thing, but within the realm of goods, there's physical goods and digital goods. I like digital goods personally because they don't have a cost of reproduction. It's very easy. You're very unlikely to lose money on those things. And when it comes to services, there's like a zillion things that you could do within whatever industry, whatever hobby, whatever passion you happen to be in. But just thinking about those 2 different methods of value delivery. Services are generally a pretty easy place to start, like teaching the guitar to random people in your neighborhood or providing busking as a service. It's generally a lot harder to make goods or create products or create stuff, but generally the goods thing is much more scalable and isn't directly tied to your time. So again, you just might want to think about it in those 2 dimensions when it comes to figuring out how to make money from your hobby. And to be honest, if you're interested in selling any kind of good or any kind of service, either in person or online, your single best way of doing that is by using Shopify, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. Shopify is amazing. It's a fantastic all-in-one, easy to use e-commerce platform that lets you sell basically anything to people in over 175 countries with hundreds and hundreds of different payment methods. It makes it super easy to make a website where you can sell your goods or services if you want to monetize your passions, but it also helps you sell directly on social. And so for example, you can sell things on Instagram or on TikTok where there's already an audience built into the thing, so you don't have to necessarily go out and find your own audience to go to your website. Shopify powers all sorts of businesses, from small ones like my online store where I sell my little stationery and some of my courses, all the way to huge, absolutely enormous brands like Gymshark. And overall, it's just an incredible platform that really scales with you every step of the way. They've got thousands and thousands of integrations with all sorts of services. And so if you want to dabble with drop shipping, you can. If you want to get logistics and distribution for a physical product taken care of, you can. All of these different third-party apps can plug directly into Shopify. And so it makes it super easy to run your store as a part-time gig. If you want to learn more, then head over to shopify.com/Ali Abdal, and you can find out more on that website and also start a free trial. So thank you so much, Shopify, for sponsoring this video. Tip number 5, if you want to make money, is to appreciate what are the areas, what are the overlaps of audience and value that actually leads to making more money than usual. Now, generally, if you can provide a good or a service that helps people save time or that helps people make money, the ROI, the return on investment on that thing for that person is going to be very tangible, and so you're far more likely to make money from the thing. Alternatively, if you choose your audience in a way that you're choosing people who have money and who want to spend money, it's a lot easier to make money than if you target people who are completely broke. This is why Famously, I don't like selling stuff to students. I don't like targeting students as an audience for stuff because students famously don't have money and don't like spending money. Whereas if you target parents, if for example you're teaching kids how to play the guitar, you wouldn't actually be targeting the kids themselves because kids don't have money to spend on that service. You might be targeting the parents. And so that might inform like what flyers you give out or like what Facebook groups you're part of, because those are the parents who have the money, who want to spend that money on their kids. And finally, tip number 6, which I think is a very underappreciated way of making money, is to recognize the difference between selling to an individual and selling to a business. So if you sell to an individual, people are buying stuff for their personal life. Whereas if you're selling to a business or a business owner, they are buying stuff for their business. Now, you only really start to fully appreciate this when you own a business, but the way that, for example, I as a business owner think about spending money in my business is completely different to how I think about spending money in my personal life, because I know that when I spend money on my business, A, it's tax deductible, and therefore I'll just almost throw money away in the business for things because I know I'm saving on tax on it. Secondly, when I spend money from the business, the amount of money in the business bank account and the business assets is astronomically higher than the amount of money that I have personally as an individual for various reasons. And this is basically true of all business owners as well. And thirdly, when I spend money as a business, I know that I'm going to get some kind of return on it, whether it's saving time or making money or any of those things. Whereas when I spend money as an individual, it's a lot harder to appreciate the ROI of that. And so this is actually a surprisingly simple way of actually making money from your passions. Figure out, how can I possibly sell this as a service to a local business? It's so hard to sell stuff to individuals. People are very, very, very price sensitive. Even if you're trying to sell someone who has loads of money, they're going to be very price sensitive in their personal life, but they're going to be completely price insensitive in their business life. And this is actually an untapped market. Like most people, when they think about trying to make money, because you are an individual, probably if you're watching this, rather than a business owner, and therefore you're thinking like an individual, the problems that you're imagining that you can solve are problems that other individuals have. But as soon as you get any amount of experience in a business or running a business or working for a business or having some kind of management role in a business, you start to appreciate, oh my freaking God, there are all these problems out there that all of these local businesses face. No one is like helping them solve these problems. And so if I can be the one to provide that service, I could potentially make large amounts of money. Part 3, the dangers of trying to make money from your hobbies. So we've talked about all the reasons why making money from your hobbies is a good thing. And I've shared a few tips that I found personally helpful that other people I know have found helpful for making money from their hobbies. But there is like a darker side to this. And that is that sometimes, and in some circumstances, making money from your hobbies can actually completely remove the joy of the hobby itself. Let's say your hobby is to do art, and you really enjoy making paintings of scenes from fantasy books or whatever, and you then try to make it your full-time job. What you're gonna find is that actually you're spending 90% of your time doing random business admin, trying to do sales and marketing and get leads and deal with clients and find commissions for your artwork, trying to upload them to appropriate platforms, trying to build an audience, all of the stuff which is basically not actually doing the art. I've got plenty of friends at this point who are musicians, and until they get to the point where they've got a manager or a business manager who can deal with all of that faff, they end up finding that they're spending like 10% of their time doing the music thing, which is the thing they love, and the rest of their time actually trying to deal with the machinery that comes with trying to turn that thing into a business. And so really the way to get around this is to appreciate that this is going to be a thing and to not feel the need to make your hobby into a full-time job. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you'll probably, enjoy it to an extent, but if you have like a day job that you enjoy, and that's like paying the bills and stuff, it's totally okay to keep your hobby as a hobby. You might see people like me that's all about side hustles, passive income, all that kind of stuff. And you might think that thing of like, if you monetize your passion, you'll never have to work a day in your life. But like, you will. Like, at this point, I know loads of people who are full-time creators, allegedly making a living from doing the thing that they love. They all think of it as work or as a chore, some of the time, including myself. And it's actually quite hard to kind of counteract that intrinsic bias towards feeling like something's a bit of a chore when it becomes the source of your livelihood. And so if you're gonna go down that route of monetizing your hobbies, try your best to not necessarily make it a requirement to survive, to sustain your life. Even if the income is astronomical, it's still useful to have diverse multiple streams of income. And secondly, try your best to retain autonomy, to retain control and power over the thing that you're doing. Because generally, as we've seen from the research, autonomy, power, control leads to that feeling of intrinsic motivation. But as soon as you start doing the thing for someone else, or for the sake of someone else, or for the sake of an extrinsic instrumental reason, it kind of sucks some of the joy out of the thing. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you got to this point, then thank you so much for watching. You might like to check out the rest of the videos in the Money Club playlist. So I made a little playlist for you right over here that you can check out. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.